Something highly calculated just happened in the Pacific. On 14 March 26, Japan's Minister of Defense detected it immediately. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, they noticed it too. Because while the entire world is hyper focused on the escalating war in the Middle East, North Korea launched a synchronized ballistic missile barrage. At 1:34 p.m. local time on 14 March 26, Pyongyang fired approximately 10 short-range ballistic missiles from the West Coast. But it's not the missiles that you should be worried about. It's the brand new military capability North Korea revealed just days before the launch, a development that could fundamentally change the balance of power in Northeast Asia. Before we get into the trajectory data and what that means for the U.S. military later in this broadcast, we're going to examine something that most analysts are ignoring. What happens to the global supply chain if the second military front opens in the Pacific? We'll break it down. The semiconductor trap, why replacement electronics and vehicle parts could suddenly disappear, and what individuals can do to prepare for a two-front economic shock. And we'll come back to that. Let's look at the hard data. According to Japanese defense officials and South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, the missiles fired on 14 March 26 reached a maximum altitude roughly 80 kilometers and flew about 340 kilometers before splashing down in the Sea of Japan, also called the East Sea. Japanese authorities confirmed that missiles landed outside the Japanese exclusive economic zone, and no aircraft or ships were damaged, fortunately. So South Korea says that this marks the third ballistic missile launch by North Korea since the start of 2026. And that's not all they did. So mainstream media is already dismissing this launch as routine North Korean posturing. They're pointing to U.S. and South Korea's Freedom Shield. It's military exercises which began earlier in March and will run until 19 March. They're involving thousands of U.S. troops conducting joint warfighting drills near the Korean Peninsula with the South Korean forces also. Kim Jong-un's sister, Kim Yo-jong, publicly accused Washington and Seoul of destroying stability on the Korean Peninsula, through what she called muscle flexing. So the narrative being pushed is simple. North Korea is just angry and just another temper tantrum. But firing 10 ballistic missiles is a synchronized launch window is not a mere temper tantrum. It's a saturation test of Allied missile defense systems. But the story doesn't stop at the Korean demilitarized zone. To understand why Kim Jong-un ordered this launch on 14 March, you have to zoom out and look at what the United States military is doing thousands of miles away. Look at the timing. The United States is currently tied down in an expanding Middle East conflict involving Iran and Israel. Naval forces are stretched trying to protect critical shipping lanes like the Strait of Hormuz and the Red Sea. American munition stockpiles are already being consumed in Ukraine and the Middle East, and are running perilously low, especially for the high-end interceptors. We're removing THAAD interceptor missile batteries from South Korea and sending them to the Middle East. And Pyongyang, yeah, they're watching this really closely because geopolitics is about leverage. And right now, the United States is facing the risk of a two-front strategic dilemma. North Korea knows that if tensions spike on the Korean Peninsula while Washington is heavily engaged elsewhere, the ability to rapidly shift military power becomes far more complicated. So this launch may not just be signaling, it may be probing the limits of U.S. response capability. Now, this is where the story takes a darker turn. The ballistic missiles were the loud, flashy distraction because just days earlier, North Korea demonstrated another weapons capability that analysts say could dramatically increase its battlefield reach. On 14 March 26, the same day as the missile barrage, North Korea state media reported that Kim Jong-un reportedly oversaw a missile drill involving 12 600 millimeter multiple rocket launchers. The weapons are massive. They fired a volley of rockets that struck an inland target in the EC, 364 an island target, 364 kilometers away from what Pyongyang called and they called it 100% accuracy. So they struck an island 364 kilometers away in the EC, and they said they hit all their targets 100%. And maybe they did. But Kim issued a start warning during the exercise. Any enemy within 420 kilometers strike radius, he said, would face a massive destructive strike. Military analysts believe these systems are capable of carrying the Hwasong 31 tactical nuclear warhead, which means they could be used for tactical nuclear saturation attacks against enemy infrastructure, troops, whatever. That range puts several major U.S. bases in South Korea within reach, including Osan Air Base, Camp Humphreys at Pyeongtaek, in the Gunsan Air Base. Gunsan Air Base, excuse me. Even more concerning is the launcher platform itself. Defense experts say the newer system can erect, fire, and relocate in less than a minute, making it far harder to detect and destroy. In other words, these launchers are designed for rapid strike and rapid escape. And that dramatically complicates the Allied counter battery operations. And there's two more developments buried deep in recent reporting that you may not hear much about, but you're getting it here. Earlier in the same week, North Korea launched cruise missiles from a newly revealed naval destroyer. And Kim Jong-un had his daughter on board for this too. Historically, North Korea's Navy has been a coastal defense force. Its strategy relied mainly on land-based missiles and agent submarines. But a surface destroyer capable of launching cruise missiles suggests something new. A move toward a blue water strike capability. And blue water means deep ocean, essentially anywhere in the ocean. That means North Korea may be attempting to project missile power farther into the open ocean, potentially threatening shipping lanes and even naval forces from unexpected directions. And I bet China appreciates that as they're salivating over Taiwan right now that we're engaged in Iran. Then, even more ominous. North Korea is now producing 2 naval destroyers per year. The U.S. only produces 1.6. So North Korea now produces more destroyers than the U.S. So look what outsourcing our manufacturing has bought us. Not pretty. So where does this leave us? Because if instability in the Mideast disrupts oil markets, chemicals, fertilizer, a destabilized Pacific theater could disrupt something far more important, the global supply chain. Most people preparing for global instability are focused on the energy shocks. But the real vulnerability is technology manufacturing. South Korea and Taiwan produce a massive share of the world's advanced semiconductors. If tensions escalate around the Sea of Japan or the Korean Peninsula, shipping lanes and air routes could be disrupted. Within weeks, supply chains for vehicle electronics, industrial machinery, medical equipment, consumer technology could begin to break down. Many critical systems depend on microchips, and this is where most of our microchips come from, and to include vehicle engine control modules, solar charge controllers. Hey, that's what I got out here. And a lot of the grids using them too now. Communications equipment and many other applications. Anything that's got a chip in it might be, your toaster may soon be affected by this. Anyway, if Pacific supply chains freeze, replacing these components could become extremely difficult. So, and here's the other thing, full-blown war on two fronts in Asia, yeah, that would really just put an end to it. So a large portion of global medical plastics and pharmaceutical ingredients are produced across Asia. Any major disruption in this region could ripple quickly through the global healthcare supply networks too. It's something you don't think about. So the question isn't just about one missile launch on 14 March 26. The real question is this: are we watching isolated regional tensions, or are we seeing multiple powers testing the limits of a global system that's already under strain? Because what happens in the Sea of Japan in the coming weeks could have consequences far beyond the Korean Peninsula. If North Korea moved on South Korea, tying U.S. up on two fronts at the same time, it might be the best time for China to invade Taiwan. The sea states will be perfect for such a move in April, just a couple of weeks away. Let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Get your preps ready now. And if you want to stay ahead of these kinds of geopolitical shifts, make sure you subscribe, bang the bell, and click all to turn on the notifications. Stay alert. Keep your eyes wide open and head on a swivel. And I'll see you in the next report. Thank you for watching. Greg out.